Welcome to this virtual edition of our year-round member screening series, Film Independent Presents. My name's Jen Wilson. I'm a senior programmer at Film Independent. I want to say thank you very much to Film Independent's lead sponsor, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. HFPA has been an ardent supporter of this program for many years, and we're so thankful for their support. Thank you to our new virtual screenings partner, Vision Media, and make sure to check out Film Independent calendar to see what screenings we have coming up. Just a note for anybody watching today, there is a question button at the bottom of the screen. So if you'd like to hit that and submit a question for our moderator, she might ask a question to our guest today. And now please welcome today's moderator. It's Janelle Riley, and she's the Deputy Awards and Features Editor at Variety. She's received 2 Emmy Awards for her work on Variety PBS Actor on Actors, which is one of my favorite series. Please welcome Janelle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today for this Q&A with The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And so pleased to welcome an actor, musician, producer who can now add host to his lengthy resume. Please welcome Jeff Goldblum. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks. I like that show, Actors on Actors, too. We haven't talked about that. That's so wonderful. I love so many of those. Did you see the one? You must have done the one with Michelle Pfeiffer and... Who'd she talk to?
I'm trying to remember. That one actually might have been a TV one, so it might not have been me.
Oh.
But let's pair you with Michelle Pfeiffer. It'll be an Into the Night reunion.
I'd love that. We did Into the Night, and we did a play together. We did 12th Night a long time ago, and I saw her recently at Gavin DeBecker's birthday party. She's so nice.
So anything with night in the title, you and Michelle do together.
That's right. What else can we think of? The Night of the Living Dead, of course, is ripe for a remake with the two of us. Yeah,
I would absolutely see that.
Yeah, A Night to Remember. We got to do that boat picture.
There you go. There you go. Remake A Night to Remember with you. You know what? There's probably a lot of producers watching right now, so make that happen.
Okay.
Speaking of, we're here with Film Independent, and obviously while you're known for bigger budget movies like Jurassic Park and Thor Ragnarok as well, you know the world of independent film very, very well. You're a Spirit Award nominee, as a matter of fact, for Deep Cover.
Deep Cover. Yes. Well, the great Bill Duke and Lawrence Fishburne. Victoria Dillard was in that. And, of course, Clarence Williams III, who was on what? Famous... Mod Squad, of course. That's right. Who was the female lead in that?
Peggy Lipton?
Exactly right.
Okay. That was a bit of a yes.
Your last name is Riley. You're Janelle Riley. What? Of course, we share the same middle name, as we know.
That's
Lynn.
Crazy.
We're both Lynn's. But your last name, Riley. What famous, I think, show in the 50s, TV show, had Riley in the title?
Well, I know this because I wrote a column in high school under the name Life of Riley, but it was spelled differently, I believe. Maybe.
Oh, really? Who played the lead character?
Now you're going to stump me.
Okay. Was it A, William Bendix? Was it B, John Forsythe? Was it C, Robert Young? Or was it D,
was it Robert Young?
It was not Robert Young.
Okay, so it's
it was William Bendix.
I think I would watch it, but
Riley. I remember that when I was a kid. I haven't seen a second of it since 1956 or something.
So speaking of the independent film world, I'm sort of curious. Just what do you like about working in indie film?
Well, it's so, it's hard to paint with a broad brush. There are so many different case-by-case examples. But, even I think we should consider even that Thor movie that you referenced a kind of an independent-y thing, given that it was directed by the great Taika Waititi. And it had an independent sort of spirit to it, I must say. He and I fooled around and he's adventurous and a comic force and a brilliant guy in the wheels of a great big piece of mainstream machinery. In another vein, we were talking about Rick Alverson, and did The Mountain this last year, and I loved every moment of that. It was kind of down and dirty. There were not 100 people on the crew. There were far fewer, but he is a real artist and was trying to make something personal and authentic, and that he was passionate about. And I got in cahoots with him enthusiastically from the first moment. We went through every moment of the script, and I kept trying to excavate where it came from and what we were doing thematically. And then every day on the set, as I saw him, putting this thing together, I was right with him. I loved it, and I loved it.
Well, look at who's taken over the Jurassic Park movies now is Colin Trevorrow, who started with, these micro-budget movies. And I feel like he's just getting a bigger playground, but it's the same spirit.
He is so interesting. It is that spirit. And we, during this period, I'm going to join him in a few weeks doing, what's it called? Jurassic World Dominion. And, but we've got the script, but I work on it every day, conscientiously, kind of all day. I'm adding bits of my costume as I find them here. Today I got a very important part of it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm very excited about it. But we've been on the phone like this for a couple of hours at a time, going through my whole part, just he and I, and all my different ideas and his ideas, and it's very exciting like that. He's very creative and fun to work with. And I just saw it today. I just finished Safety Not Guaranteed. That's what you're talking about. I'd never seen it.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
It's so good.
Yeah.
How about that? Aubrey
You've never
Plaza?
seen it even when you worked with him?
No, I had to. Well, I did. What did I do? I did one day on a Super Bowl commercial. It was kind of Jurassic oriented. And then we did, he wrote the last one that I had one day on at Pinewood Studios. And like this one, he was in England, and we got on the phone and tinkered around with my scene. And I loved that. But this is the first time I'm really working substantially with him. So I figured I should catch up with that boy. He is something. And then I saw some of the extra material. I love all manner of documentary, and it's sort of almost my favorite thing to see the extra material and on the Criterion Channel. And so I went and saw a 15-minute making of and all the behind-the-scenes things and much interview footage with him, which I found fascinating.
I love those making ofs, but like I said, you're very busy with movies and music. What made you interested in taking the time out to do a documentary series like this?
I will tell you, but before we get to that, put a bookmark in that. You just reminded me of people might be interested in, do you know who did the behind-the-scenes footage on a Wes Anderson movie that I did called Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou? Do you know who's there? One of the Maisels brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Albert. I believe it was Albert Maisels did the making of, did a little documentary of that. How about that?
That is amazing.
I love all their work. I love Salesman. I love Grey Gardens, of course. I love the Rolling Stones movie, Give Me Shelter. In any case, to do this movie, to do this series, we've talked a little bit about it before. The story goes that I was doing a few hosting substitute gigs for them when they were tinkering around with the format for Explorer on Nat Geo. And we hit it off. We started to talk about what I could do, host-wise, for a whole series. And I said, well, I like science things, I loved Cosmos, and I liked talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I was on his show, and we had a lovely chit-chat. And I said, but if I did something like that, having had the experience with Explorer, which was very good, I said, maybe we could screw with it a little bit and make it unconventional. Maybe I could lend my resources, such as they are, to a show like that, and do something that I've been hankering to do myself. I've played around with it in a movie I did, all improvised, called Pittsburgh, where I kind of wanted to tell my story, but to twist a little where it was another character maybe, or a parallel universe version of me, but find some reason to find me in interesting circumstances, that I could have improvised scenes with people and do something authentic and not contrived. Anyway, we started to talk around that, and we came up with this thing. Thematically, we came up with subject matter that were objects familiar to us in the everyday world, but that so many people love and that possibly bring us together, so relevant to our time now, about which I could, teach myself and us at the same time, science, and history and interesting utility in daily life. And at the same time, have a kind of a Jungian little porthole that was triggered whereby I could reveal and talk about my dream life and my childhood associations and this and that. And to that end, that's what we did all day. And I talked to the camera. Luckily, they are brilliant researchers and in every way documentarians, and edit it in such a way that where it became coherent, and watchable. But they encouraged me to, during the voiceover sessions, for instance, kind of have a little podcast version of it where I took the material that we wanted to cover, but fooled around with it, and kind of made it my own was the idea. And even before, as we got into the subjects, I would get on my phone and talk for crazily a couple hours about all the subjects at hand and sort of ruminate about, what it meant to me and what I'm interested in about it and all my experiences and, epiphanies and remembrances about it. And they finally put me in a recording studio so that all that could be legitimate production-wise. So at the end, they could use some of it. And then I gave them some of my home movies, all of my home movies, in fact, that I have from Pittsburgh from the 50s and 60s, and my photo albums. And so that gets included too, and wherever I can, I try to take an off-ramp into some non sequitur interest of mine on the day, and I bring along, where did I go? Oh, I started to I got for myself these little, I think it's a moleskin thing. I said, let's get something on because I like to have notes and I'm going to be a little bit of a detective. And so maybe I could have questions that I write down, which I started to do the morning of the interview, having done minimal research on who it was I was meeting, and then insisted we all did on me getting caught on camera talking to them for the first time and experiencing the event, whatever it was, and then going through just, discharging all of my curiosities on the day, and I thought maybe to somebody it might be interesting to see me learning in a real authentic learning curve, and maybe people would join me. And I just love the series and love doing it. And I'm proud of how it came out.
Did you always know it was going to be so personal, or was that something that sort of developed with the home movies and the dream sequences and everything as you actually shot the show?
It developed. And so as we do the second season, which I hope, God willing, we'll get back to, which we plan to do after I finish Jurassic World in early November and December and and it'll be even more personal and at the same time woven in a way that can include some larger ideas which will accommodate our shifting world, our shifted world, an ever-shifting world, and maybe new subject matter and larger ideas of even more substance and universal provocation. That's what I'm hoping. I'll bet we do. There are smart people involved, and I'm excited about it.
I think part of the charm is you take an idea that I don't think I would have any interest in, and you make it fascinating. Do you sort of, this may sound strange, but do you sort of look for things that you think aren't going to be interesting?
Well, a couple fell into different kinds of categories. I'm fascinated with ice cream, always have been. I've tried to steer clear of it in the last few decades, except very judiciously. But, that's easy to love, of course. But gaming, for instance, I have not been in my adult life interested, as I say on the show, or have had any experience with any kind of video games. I've never played a video game in my life after I, fooled around with Pong or Pac-Man or, a long time ago. So I had plenty to learn about that and plenty of concerns, considerations, but, I went along for a very adventurous and interesting ride. I thought barbecues, I'm not a barbecuer, hadn't been a barbecuer, have memories of Pittsburgh and a certain barbecue set, but, I loved getting into that. And they know me now and kind of we're like-minded and twin souls. So they would send me on unexpected turns and find surprising people for me to talk to. I think we talked about in barbecue. We found that place in Austin, Texas called Aspire that farms crickets, and then we found a gourmet barbecue chef to cook me up some crickets, and I had those. And of course, that gave way to a whole discussion about the environment and protein and what's good for us, what's good for the world, what's good for animals, all that stuff.
You really liked the crickets, didn't you?
I loved it. I'm easy to please. I'm an adventurous eater. I think I've eaten everything. There's nothing that I haven't tried. I feel like so. And now I'm on a kind of strict regime for a while now. But I'll still try something. And yeah, I liked them. They were good. They were fine and dandy.
How long does it take to typically shoot a show? Like, how long are you on the road talking to people? Not so much the editing process of it, but you're actively on the ground.
I think we took for each of those subjects, 7 days, 8 days, something like that. They'd fly me around, here and there, all over the country, getting me to places where I wouldn't ordinarily have found myself, I kept saying, and it's true. But I have now a stronger appetite to go all sorts of places out of my comfort zone, because I got these two kids now, 5-year-old and almost 5. He'll be 5 this 4th of July, Independence Day, Charlie and River. And now through their eyes, I enjoy seeing all sorts of things that I've seen and haven't seen. So in that same vein, I like going all kind of places. That forest, I'll tell you, I keep hankering to take them to a natural forest. And that place near the fellow who does salt and straw ice cream, who forages for nettles and things to put in his ice cream, that's near him in, I think it's Seattle, ooh, that was magical and mysterious. I love that. And I thought, I bet the kids would like this, because nature and kids, you see how bonded we are and part of and related we are to nature. When you see our kids in the backyard, digging and, naturally interested in the earth and all that. Yeah.
Speaking of ice cream, you got to meet Ben and Jerry, which if I was ever going to be starstruck, it would be those guys.
I was totally starstruck, not only by their amazing accomplishment food-wise, but they're delightful fellas and high integrity, sophisticated, and progressive political activists, which I admire no end. They were great to meet. We hit it off, I felt, and I loved them. And like I say, there were flavors that I had never dared to try, that they introduced me to on camera. And I was trying a little, Cherry Garcia and stuff, right with them. It was great. Yeah, they were great. But I loved going to the Southern Decadence Parade in New Orleans. I'd only been to New Orleans once in my life, believe it or not. That was fantastic. And then that pool episode that gave me a chance to be with the ladies of the aquatic ballet in their 80s mostly. And I joined in and did some aquatic ballet with them. That was impressive. They were powerful and very moving. And in that same episode, the women who were training to be astronauts in the last period of their 2-year program, and spending a 6-hour stint in the pool with the replica of the International Space Station, because that's the way they can simulate weightlessness like that. And I went in the pool with them and talked to them. They were absolutely amazing. I'm thinking about Henry Ford, too, who's in Detroit, who's an amazing guy making bikes and revitalizing his life and his community. And he gave me one of those bicycles. It was a very beautiful experience.
A really nice side effect of this show is you're getting to collect all this great swag that you might not have otherwise.
A little bit. I'm not such of a swag collector. I usually give back the gift bag or recycle it right away, much to my wife's dismay. She's always moaning, wailing in many keys, many of the upper keys, B flat, when I come back and say, I gave it away already. But because I minimize if anything. I'm a kind of recycler. But I did take that grill that Johnny Dang gave me that was a gold, that make all my teeth gold, like some of the people I know have. And that bike I took, and there we go. And then somebody gave me, made a pair of shoes for me in that sneakers episode. That was Dominic Ciambrone. That was fun and fantastic.
I assume that most of the interviews are set up in advance. And I'm curious if, because you're Jeff Goldblum, if you think you get more access to people you might not, or if sometimes you're doing sort of man on the street interviews, do people actually stop and say like, oh, by the way, I love your commercials.
They do. We found ourselves in a lot of big events, a big tattoo convention and a sneaker convention and a lot of, an RV demolition derby and stuff. And so I got a chance to meet people that they hadn't, done an arranged marriage with, and just had exchange. And sometimes that's my favorite kind of thing. Although they're brilliant researchers and brilliant casting. They do brilliant casting, as they call it. And find these people who are fascinating. And I loved meeting a lot of people that they set me up with. And who knows, I didn't really ask. I don't know if I'm, there they are, Nat Geo, they've done One Strange Rock. And I'm sure they're, they don't have to, my name is worth 25 cents, on a subway token. But people seem delighted to talk to me. But I do like unexpected encounters, particularly.
One of the things that's been really fascinating to see in your career as it develops is you've become a very popular meme. A lot of people love Jeff Goldblum reaction GIFs, and I don't know if you've seen many of them. Do you have a personal favorite?
I've seen a couple of them. I may bring it up to Sam Neill when I see him in a couple of weeks. Does that qualify as a meme where he's,
yes,
doing that thing from the first picture on the Triceratops, but they substitute my chest, my bare chest, I'm sure that mortifies him. I might get a kick out of bringing that up to him. But a meme, so I know some of those, they're all sweet and very funny. But I was an actual meme too, because that's the other way they say mime, isn't it? Marcel Marceau was a meme, I believe. And I had an early interest, and not to humiliate myself anymore, but believe it or not, I had an early interest in mime before it fell on cultural hard times. I saw Marcel Marceau on stage, and Les Enfants du Paradis, Children of Paradise was a favorite movie of mine with Jean-Louis Barrault, who turns mime into a grand and mystical, beautiful art form. And so I would do it in high school in Pittsburgh. It was mostly steelworkers, sons and daughters that I went to school with. My dad was the doctor serving them in West Homestead. And I went to school to Carnegie Mellon University, and Jewel Walker was our mime teacher. I took to it. I loved it. And I thought I might just go to France and study with Decroux, who at the time had a school, and just be a kind of monkish student for years, apprenticing in this art form. I had a taste for it. But I would put on leotards and whiteface and a striped shirt and go into classes in high school and do little demonstrations.
Please find photos of that for season 2.
I should. I don't know if anybody got it. They were, I think, if I'd stayed around 10 minutes more, they might have beaten me up, but I think they were just gobsmacked. What is this alien creature? I think they were thinking. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually glad you didn't go into miming, because you have such a great voice. And we actually have an audience question from Travis.
Bickle.
Travis Clark, actually.
Oh, Travis Clark. Not nearly as psychopathic as
yes.
Travis Bickle, I'm sure.
He says you have such a unique cadence. Is this natural? Oh, wait, sorry, the question just disappeared. You have such a unique cadence. Is this natural, or did you develop it to stand out? If it is natural, was it a hindrance at any time for you to get acting parts?
Thank you, Travis. No, it's not an affectation. I didn't develop it. No, as you can see now, I'm certainly not trying to do anything now, and I probably I'm reminding you of this cadence that you're talking about. If we're talking about the same thing, I don't know. It's just part of the way things come out of me. I do have a particular, I love jazz. I got a jazz band, and I like to play. But no, this is just the way I am. But sometimes, yes, I don't know that it's lost me any jobs that I know of. But sometimes I like to characterize. I don't always. Well, some directors want to, like Taika Waititi said, I think we should do things that are particularly in your vein, that you're familiar with and that we're familiar with, that might be right for this character. I don't want to jettison that entirely. But there are other characters and directors that we need to say goodbye to my straight behavior, alter it a little bit. Of course, I'd love to characterize even more. But Rick Alverson, as I played this lobotomy doctor, this very particular guy, he said, it's, I think you speak a certain way that is really not like you so much. And he would gently guide me, but very happily. And, I was grateful to get his idea, because he had a vision for this character, and I was happy to adjust myself.
We have a question from Jake. Wants to know if you would consider inviting any of your former co-stars to join you on future seasons of The World According to Jeff Goldblum, and if so, who?
Any of my future co-stars or former?
Your former co-stars.
Former co-stars. Yes, because who knows who my future co-stars are? Let me see. Well, yes, and then of course, what would we be talking about? But Peter Weller in Buckaroo Banzai. He and I played the trumpet together, and he knows a lot about music. He's a jazz fan, so if I ever did an episode, I don't know that we have anyone scheduled, on jazz or music, he'd be an interesting person to talk to. Or he's an art historian, and he knows about that. And he lives in New Orleans part of the time. So that would be something. If I did an episode on art, well, you said co-stars, but I'm thinking of my sister Pam, I showed you before, who did some of these pictures, of me. She's a fantastic artist. And I'd love to talk about our shared history in Pittsburgh, having gone to the Tam O'Shanter Special Arts class, and revisit that. I think that would be an interesting, the world of art could be a portal into very many things. And I'm very interested in it. And it's had a big part in my history. But let me see, former co-stars. Well, I know that Michelle Pfeiffer, for instance, has always painted. Yes. Well, yes, we could go on and on and on. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne. I remember him, speaking of deep cover, in preparation to some of the scenes, he would do Tai Chi.
Really?
Which was at that time a little unknown to me. But yes, if we did an episode on, that culture, or the martial arts, or movement and dance, and Lawrence Fishburne. Yes.
You and Sam Neill could discuss memes.
Sam Neill, yes, we could discuss memes. Well, he's an expert on many things. Hey, I think that Sam Neill has an interest in music. He plays the ukulele. He sings, and I think he has a wine business. I think he makes wines. Yeah. If I did an episode on wines and grapes or fruit or food, or Sam Neill. Yes.
And then maybe you could reenact the meme in person.
Yes, we could. I'm sure he'd like me to bare my chest. I'm sure he'd like to nuzzle up to my bosom. Yeah.
We have a question from Sarah. Wants to know, in the series, which subject surprised you the most?
Sarah. Well, let's see. Let me remind myself of all our subjects, which were most surprising. Well, ice cream. Oh boy, surprising. Well, like I say, I'd missed out on some of those things. It's a deeply religious, ecstatic experience when you get your first taste of fill in the blank. Every set. Sneakers, tattoos. Surprising. Well, I didn't know that they had a Jeff Goldblum day in this particular tattoo parlor in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. And I'm always surprised and interested to go back into Pittsburgh. You know, that I still dream about the house that I grew up in. And I'm always, remodeling it and re-landscaping it and finding a new hidden room that I didn't know existed. Denim. Well, I saw that whole documentary because of my involvement in that denim thing. I think it's called River Blue, where, the proliferation of jeans over the last, and dyeing them, that blue color over the last few decades has messed up the waterways. And luckily some brilliant people and well-intentioned and noble types like some of them at Levi's up there whom I visited are trying to fix that with new technology. That was surprising. Barbecues, RVs, coffee, whoa, pools, cosmetics. Yeah, all surprising. Well, I went to that drag show. I live here in West Hollywood, and I'd never been to, what was it called, Hamburger Mary's, where they had that sun.
Hamburger Mary's.
Yeah, they had a. I went to. I didn't know they're right where I've passed by a million times. They had that Sunday brunch drag show. That was fantastic. I loved that. Anyway, all those things. And Johnny Dang's jewelry thing down in Texas. That was unbelievable. And speaking of Texas, that's where I went to that for the denim episode, that bar, and we did some line dancing. How about that? I like that. That was surprising. Yeah.
Actually, a follow-up question to that is from Becky, wants to know what topics would you like to cover in future episodes or dream locations you want to explore?
You are so interesting. Becky, is that her name? Becky? No? Becky.
Becky, yeah.
Hi, Becky. Well, Becky, yeah, I don't want to we have some ideas. Like I say, it's still wet play because now with the new year approaching, things may be different, but we've already gotten some notions, and my friend Kurt Anderson is helping us, who wrote Fantasyland, or How America Went Haywire, who's very smart about many things. We started, I let the cat out of the bag. I know they want me to be a little mysterious about some of these subjects that we may be choosing, but I know I've already talked about fireworks, and that's pretty interesting. Fireworks, I had all my, memories and associations, and I met some people who do some backyard things, and I went to a store, but then we met an astronaut who had been up there and seen the Earth from that perspective and seen the stars up close. And we talked about how fireworks may be not unrelated to the stars and the constellations and who we are and where we came from. All of that. Other episodes and locations. Well, we went to Hawaii for a little bit for that tattoos episode where we shot in Kauai, the first and second Jurassic Park there. And so I have a particular fondness for the balmy breezes and the people of Hawaii. That was nice. But I like going places that I'd never heard of or never would have thought of going. We went, all over, and I think they have some more of that in mind for me now. So I'm looking forward to a kind of blindfolded surprise-a-thon, where Jeff gets to visit every manner of Americana and then the world.
I would love that if they just blindfolded you and then unleashed you in, I don't know, Morocco or something.
Well, that's my favorite thing. Speaking of which, I've never been to Morocco. Really? Believe it or not. I should go there, shouldn't I?
No, you should go back to Kauai because that's my second home. So
it is? Where? What island?
Where my family is. Kapa'a.
What island is that? Have I been there?
Oh, sorry, Kapa'a on Kauai.
Oh, it's on Kauai.
Yeah, it's in the
Kauai.
middle.
Oh, yeah. I love Kauai.
My favorite place on earth.
Oh, it's so spectacular. It's so spectacular. I've been to a bunch of islands anyway. Yeah, I love it there.
And I think the Jurassic Park movies basically keep them afloat because everywhere you go, there's a different tour, a different Jurassic Park tour.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those. I've never been on the Jurassic Park tour except my own Jurassic Park.
You should go. That would be a hoot.
I'd like to. Yeah. Should I wear a disguise or be like a parade float and be like the mayor of Jurassic Park?
Just show up and see if anyone, they're very casual there. They might not say anything.
Yeah, I bet they are. That's right. Well, how about that? Well, I'm about to get another tour of Jurassic World. That's going to be we're in for an adventure. wait till you see, because Laura Dern is going to be there, of course, and Sam Neill, and then Bryce and Chris, and oh man, it's going to be something. Yeah.
We have questions actually answering if you can tell us anything, but I'm guessing you can't.
About what? Ooh.
About Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, Jurassic World. Well, the cast and some of the that's been released in public information, set out into the wild. Let me see. Well, there's going to be dinosaurs in it, and I'm going to be. Well, there may be some surprises about me, but I might be ruminating and thinking and articulating some possibly wise, interesting things about our world and our planet and about our ability to coexist and the beauty of nature and our being able to learn from and being related to nature, all of that kind of thing, things that interest me. I'm reading, I read during the series, and now for this too, it's not unrelated. All three of those Yuval Harari books, Sapiens and Homo Deus and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, all having to do with interesting things, maybe in Jurassic World land, thought-wise, because Sapiens, our species, how long we've been here, what our job is, what our capacities are, what our future might be. Speaking of Homo Deus, that's what he deals with there. And then 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, he talks about how nuclear weaponry and the wise management of that so that we don't get into trouble that way, and climate change, which is not uninteresting to my Jurassic Park character, and of course technological disruption, he calls it, whereby genetic engineering and biotech and AI all intersect to create opportunities but dangers. Yes. That's what's up in the Jurassic world.
That's great. We have a question from Oleg and Stephen.
Oleg and Stephen.
Yes, it's a great show, always interesting, sustains one's interest. Have you had a chance to at least get started on the second season development, if not actual production?
Yes, fellas, we got started with that fireworks episode and had almost finished it when the curtain came down. Yes, and we entered this new chapter. But we've been talking, the wonderful people from Newtopia and Nat Geo and Disney Plus, all this time, and we're in cahoots, and we're seeing how we can make the best of it. Everything. We're right on schedule, I'd say. That's what I like to say, and I think we're right on schedule. It's certainly now. It couldn't be more now than it is, and all we can do is accept, embrace, and enjoy and enthuse about the now.
If you're doing something on fireworks, can you ask people why they set them off, weeks before 4th of July? Because it's insane in my neighborhood right now.
Good question. This year, I think it may have something to do with other kinds of celebrations and movements and ideas, but people have them, and I've noticed more this year than ever. Yes, at 3 a.m.
Yep.
Bang, 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 bang. I know. And I look out the window, and there are big, looks like professional, glitter to me in the sky. I don't know. That's a good question. I did ask, I don't want to give anything too much away, but we talked to some regular types I talked to some professional people who put on those shows, the best of the best shows, and I talked to them and learned some interesting things. But then I talked to some people who visited those stores. I'd never been to one of those, in some states legal, in some states not legal, stores, superstores, where they have rows and rows of fluorescent lighted fireworks in all shape and form, not just like the M80s and the cherry bombs and snakes and sparklers that I remember, but 1,000 others. And I talked to some people who were buying them and like to set them off all during the year, in fact, and why they did that. Yeah, we get into a little bit of that.
By the way, they're illegal on Kauai. Another great reason to go there.
They're legal or illegal?
Illegal, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, look up at the stars. If we're not thrilled by, entertained by the cosmos around us and the shooting stars and the constellations, come on.
And finally, we have it's a question from my friend Karen Idelson. Wants to know, what discoveries have you made about yourself by doing this show?
Karen, that's a very provocative and interesting question. Well, that's too numerous to mention. Let me see if I can nutshell something for our viewing pleasure. Well, it's just been a growth spurt for me. I realize that I'm a curious cat more than ever, and maybe a late bloomer, but I have these kids, and I like getting on the bike again and riding with them. What else? What else is new? Is really so much is new. Well, I think that, like many other people, it's sort of an experience like if I were playing that part of the lead girl in Our Town, who is dead, has a chance to, ghosty, as I remember it, come back and go, geez, I was here and I took it for granted a little bit, and I never realized how much I loved this and that and this and being here. It's such a infinitely privileged, magical miracle that we're here. And so I think I've deepened through the show, and this period, I think I've deepened my appreciation of people and how precious our time is here, and how precious this planet is, and our universal connection.
That's pretty great. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching at home, for the great questions. Really made it very easy for me. You can catch all the episodes of the show on Disney Plus right now.
Fantastic. Janelle, Lynn, Riley, thank you so much. I hope I talk to you soon and every day.
I hope so, too, and I want that painting behind you.
Well, my sister did it, Pam Goldblum. She's very good. And Jeffrey Kaiser shot her husband. They collaborate on the same painting, believe it or not.
Again, I wish I had artistic ability like that. But in the meantime, I'll just appreciate other people's.
I like that T-shirt that you did. I think you don't hide your light under a bushel.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.